We are live on YouTube. So once again, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Srinath.
Morning.
What a beautiful day it is. Definitely out here in Solan, Himachal Pradesh. The flowers are blooming and the spring is in. In fact, it rained yesterday and the temperature came down to 18 or 19 degrees. I had to wear a light sweater. But more importantly, we have an amazing speaker with us today, Srinath Sridharan. We are extremely delighted to welcome him to the 11th episode of the Yogananda Guru series, powered by Shoolini University. Sridharan, I've known Srinath for now around 5 to 6 years. He used to be a client of mine when I was with Oliver Wyman. Extremely powerful and I would say insightful personality. He was on the board of several companies, including several insurance companies, banks, and the likes. And I think 3 to 4 months back or 2 months back, he decided to go on sabbatical. So Srinath's work from home actually started pre-COVID. And as we were talking, I was joking with him that we'd love to hear his story, how he survived being at home even before COVID, and how does post-COVID look for him. So that's the topic of the day today. How do we survive work from home, learning from home for the students? How do we make the best use of it? And what's going to happen post-COVID? Are we going to come back to the old way of working? Does he believe that? But more importantly, we'd love to hear lessons from him. We'd love to hear his mantras of making the best use of time, learning the best way, working the best way. Our Prime Minister made a great post yesterday on LinkedIn where he said the new norm is going to be working from home and the new meeting room is going to be the internet. What beautiful thoughts by Mr. Modi. I'm not going to take more time. I'm going to hand it over to Srinath. So Srinath, once again, welcome to the Yogananda Guru series. Welcome to Shoolini University. We're delighted to have you with us. Over to you. But before you start, tell us a bit about yourself. Tell us your journey from school to childhood to boyhood to adulthood and your working life. What keeps you busy nowadays? And then let's get into the discourse. Over to you, Srinath.
Thank you. Thank you, Atul. A very good morning from hot and humid Mumbai. I can't be as romantic and poetic like Atul describing the weather. But having said that, delighted to be here chatting with all of you. And I think the journey for me from where I started to where I am today, I think it's been a very humble middle class journey, starting from school, college, studied in India, didn't go anywhere abroad, didn't work anywhere abroad. Spent the last 24 years of my career in corporate India. Of course, those has taken me all around the world for work and pleasure. And there have been enormous amount of learnings, be it from the teams that I worked with or the bosses I worked with or the teams that I've led. And I think I made lots of friends, including like Atul. During the workplace, you tend to make friends not only for intellectual companionship, but I think some of those shared values, the very fact that Atul and his family and team have built what Shoolini is today, I mean, it speaks very highly for the value system that he's always spoken about and stood for. So from that point of view, I think I took a sabbatical end of January, early February, and I've been working from home. So before COVID as well. Uh, it's one of the interesting challenges that I think all of us face. We are forced to do it, and I think that's where we learn. Would we have learned to do work from home or learn from home if there was no lockdown? I probably have a question mark around that. So before I begin on to what I wanted to share, I think one of the toughest point about a medium like this, which is one to many, all of you can see me, I can't see any of you, is that I can't make eye contact or I can't see you in the eye. So it'll be lovely if any of you or most of you can actually drop a yes or no during the interaction. I would pause at certain points just to raise a point to check some of you are asleep or attendance has been marked and you've disappeared watching some Netflix. So it'll be interesting to see if people are around. And I think to begin with, thank you so much. I think all of us are in the middle of a very, very unprecedented global health crisis. And I think we need to acknowledge that. I probably would go to the extreme to call it World War III with an unseen enemy, that's the virus. But having said that, with every crisis comes an opportunity. The very fact that all of you have been having a wonderful series of knowledge sessions over the last 10 days, I've attended at least 6 or 7 of them, uh, is the evidence that you can actually use a lockdown, you can actually use a crisis to continue with learning. So I think some of this learning or some of this knowledge series may not have come about in the physical space or the physical medium if this lockdown had not been there. So this goes on to also validate my point, which I've always believed in, personal belief, that knowledge is not only about formal college education or formal education, but it's also about continual learning. Most of the professors who actually succeed in their careers have actually continued with learning. They've not stopped only with the degrees. Talk about Atul, talk about a lot of your professors, the ecosystem. You would see them energetic, you would see them inquisitive for knowledge, and I think that's what makes it happen. What does it mean? I think lifelong learning is an attitude. It is not just a process; it's an attitude. You want to learn. You are eager to learn. So let me start off. Who am I? Apart from the lovely introduction that Atul gave, which is about my career, I mean, who am I? Very, very simple. Compared to most of the youngsters on this chat today, I'm a non-digital native. I am not a millennial. That means I'm at a crossroads in my life when the middle age starts showing in the middle. And in a lockdown in an urban apartment setting just makes it far more difficult. Uh, yes, do I have that sense of gloom or doom? No way. I mean, I think it's been a lot of fun. The fun is what you make it to be. Sabbatical, let's use the word sabbatical. If there are any professionals around who have taken the sabbatical, if you can drop a yes, that'll be lovely to see how many of you have actually experienced what I've gone through. And the point is, sabbatical is almost a 4-letter word. I'm being very nice and polite here without using the word. It's a 4-letter word from the corporate India point of view, or most of the corporate's point of view. People will look at you and say, are you mad? Are you nuts that you actually want to take off when you're at your prime, when you're doing very well, when you're successful, when you're in the right position, leading people? Are you jobless? Are you willingly saying that you want to be unemployed for some time or lesser employed? I think so many questions and so many thoughts. But actually, the genesis, if you look at the dictionary and look at the word sabbatical, very interestingly, it didn't come from corporate point of view at all. The word sabbatical comes from the academician point of view. The academicians in the olden days were actually allowed to stop their normal work, travel around the world, or to study and come back so that their impact in giving back to the society or the students was far sharper. So, of course, the corporate India, all of us, we've loved words and we've copied it. So what does it mean for a person who's been completely busy traveling 20 to 24 days a month, 12 hours of calendar blocked out for 3 to 4 months ahead of schedule? So it will be interesting that if somebody said, I want to meet you, you'd be like, hey, let's meet after 3 months, unless it was urgent. What does it mean to suddenly say that, okay, I'm on a sabbatical and I don't want to do certain things? The point is, this is what I've learned quickly, and this is what I've seen my friends do. Sabbatical doesn't mean you just chill out and relax alone. Of course, that can be one of the goals, that you also want to relax, you also want to chill out, and you don't want to be at the same pace that you've always had. You may want to reduce the pace. It could mean simply, what does it mean to me? I've recharged my batteries physically, mentally, emotionally, and I use the word, which don't confuse it with religion, spiritually. You recuperate, you rest a while, you heal your mind, you calm down. Some of you might play a sport, some of you might be outdoorsy, some of you might read a book, write, meditate, whatever, but recuperate. Recover. When I say recover, it's a very harsh word. Recover from your past battles, from the demons in your mind, because life is a marathon. Corporate career is a marathon. Let's face it. For most of you on this chat will be probably about 19 to 21 years of age, the average age. And the human life that all of us lead, with increasing science and technology and probably better health, we are going to live until 85, probably, if we don't get run over by a bus or a disease. It means that you have another 65 years ahead of you. And if you're already tired, kick yourself. You have under 3 times the current life that you have to live. It's a marathon without getting burnt out. And that's what a sabbatical helps you. That it's almost like halfway through a marathon where you pause, sip some water. You don't drink water in a marathon, you sip water and you hydrate and you kind of tone your muscle, flex it, and start running again. So what did I learn? I've been learning quite a few interesting new things, including digital social media. I've been spending time sharing my learnings with people who don't have access to corporate leaders like me. Picking up an old hobby, I've started writing, which I never had time for. So in a sabbatical or work from home, you can make time for some of these. So what's the big deal about working or even learning from home? I want to make this very contextual because most of you are students, and when I say work from home, it doesn't mean just work, it can also mean learn from home. So this is the question I have. What's the art of self-discipline or focus for making yourself productive and effective during learning from home or work from home? Most of you on this chat would have already spent 3 weeks in lockdown. And can somebody recommend an app or a chapter on how to be self-disciplined? I mean, throw in your chat message. The point is there is no app. It's all in the mind, discipline. I think most of us are disciplined enough, self-disciplined enough. And as some of you have pointed out, saying one needs to stick to a timetable to be disciplined. But my dear friends, you need to make a timetable. That's the first start for being disciplined. You need to know what you need to do with your time. Atul believes conventional book and pen and paper works, and the same thing for me. Pen and paper works, but I'll give a twist to what I talk about pen and paper. The first thing in a sabbatical or work from home is very simple. You need to continue being focused, disciplined, including and most importantly how you manage your time. You might decide that you're not going to do anything. Some of you believe in shunya meditation. That's fine. You don't need to do anything. You might just decide to keep your mind and calm and the table clutter free, but make that a part of your plan on how you plan to spend 12 to 16 hours of your day. If you're going to say I'm going to sleep more and I'm going to sleep for 7 hours a day, so be it, but stick to a plan. I've seen that when you fix a time for a call or a VC, stick to it. Don't give excuses. When you commit to do something for your family, when you're working from home and learning from home, don't give them this complete bullshit saying, hey, I'm busy, I'm sorry, I forgot, and I can't do it for you. I mean, that's a crime. Just as much as you would not ditch somebody at work or at college, don't do the same with your family. Because it's very, very simple. You are actually the intruder today. You're working from home or you're studying from home. That originally was not made for you. You were supposed to be in a different ecosystem called office or college. So I'm going to use a phrase. And what does it mean for what's all of us read? Most of the business management students read Economic Times. And what else is the most popular kind of magazines or newspapers that people read? I mean, just put it on the chat. I can take a look at what all you read. So I'm going to call, somebody reads Business Today, somebody reads Economist, somebody reads Times of India on a daily basis, which means that most of us have a habit of reading, regular reading. And I call it the ET, CT, and PT syndrome, working from home, to start off with. Most of us are used to reading some magazine or some newspaper on a daily basis. Call it the pot habit or the pottery habit. We need something. Somebody also reads the Indian Express. Good to see that. And the very first fact that when you work from home is you're in no hurry to check the news every hour. If you're working in the corporate world, if you're in the listed entity, you would check your stock prices on an hourly basis. If you're the person or a corporate leader who's used to being quoted in Economic Times, you're going to check the news whether your peers are being quoted as well. But the fact is, when you're in a sabbatical or when you're working from home, you don't need to check that app every hour. So one of the other contrast, the sharp contrast that all of us feel when you're working from home, you will have never had in the office or the college. Can somebody take a guess? The first thing that's very stark and hits you. The first thing that hit me working from home was this, the pressure cooker. None of us have pressure cooker in the office or the campus, unless it's in the cafeteria. It's the pressure cooker CT, the whistle. And first couple of days, it was like almost like, oh my God, that's the pressure cooker sound and I'm on a VC. And I'm sure it has happened to a lot of you. I mean, drop in a message with a yes if you have had this pressure cooker sound whistle going on when you're on a call. And then I got used to it. The fact is, you got to get used to it. It is you who has taken that space at home. You can't tell the house to go and work from somewhere else. And most of us, at least in the urban area, live in places where we probably are in an apartment. We probably are in, even if you close your doors, even you do one thing, some kind of sound is going to go ahead. The other one that is actually a discovery, and I'm sure Atul with his consulting background probably will get some interns to actually do a project on this. Amount of times a doorbell is rung in an urban apartment space is not even funny. I don't know if you want to take a guess at the number of times, 10, 12, 13, it's starting from the doodwala, the newspaper guy, the sabziwala, the plumber, the postman, the courier, the speed post, and Dobi. I mean, Dobi, not Dhoni. And again, the courier, it's a different courier, the household domestic help, the kids coming in, kids going out, the neighbor, kids have gone and forgotten something and coming back and ringing the bell, the driver. And all this is part of a home atmosphere. You never had that at college. You never had that at office. You have to learn to accept this reality that you are in an eco space where there are other stakeholders, not just you. Even if you shut yourself in the room, make plans, tell people that, yes, you're going to be there. Yes, Atul, I mean, including the pets, if you have, everything is part of it. The only thing that helped me was I have a dedicated space. Dedicated space does not mean a cabin, a room. It can be just a desk. Stick to that place. That's your office space. That's your study space. That's your zone. The space can be anywhere at home. Fix it, keep it clean. It's an actual physical space that you demarcate. I arrange my iPad on that. I have all my chargers. I have my phones. I have my papers. I have my files. I have my books, the textbook. I've ensured that very, very simple that my Wi-Fi router works there. I mean, one of the biggest challenges that all of us working from home or studying or learning from home is the competition for that widespread bandwidth. Because suddenly in the lockdown, everybody is on Zoom or FaceTime or something else. So how do you ensure that Wi-Fi routers work? Work on it. I would simply even check with my daughters saying, what are their school virtual classroom timing so that I can actually reschedule my calls and VCs so that I don't hog the bandwidth for them. Some of these small little things you can do with the family. I even keep my water bottle. I mean, I can show you. I even keep my water bottle fixed. It's as simple as it's your office space or your college desk. You have to learn to compartmentalize. When I sit here, I'm working. My family knows it. My kids know it that I'm sitting there. This is work. Treat it with respect. And of course, some of you who are working professionals here or who are thinking of working from home, thinking of actually going on a sabbatical, please don't compare the large cubicles or the cabins that you had at office with the amount of space that you have at home, which might be smaller if you're in an urban setting. I think don't pity yourself that you're missing your office boy, the chai guy, somebody will bring the chai to you. Here at home, you are supposed to get up and make it yourself. I mean, stop that cribbing and whining. End of the day, I think if you're missing something, a swanky office space, commercial estate called office, it's also what I've come to realization that we are missing a social identity. Do you recognize a simple gesture that all of us do when we meet in the corporate setting? We would take out a beautiful looking card holder, visiting card holder, take out the visiting card and actually exchange it like a ritual. We're just showing off. I mean, today, if you have somebody's name and mobile number, and if they're on WhatsApp, that's good enough social identity to connect with anybody. You can trace them on Facebook, you can trace them on LinkedIn, any of the social media. Those visiting cards have almost become redundant. And yet, most of us in the corporate world are living in our past glory because our office address, whether it's a marquee name, marquee building, prime estate, cabin size, interiors having done by certain interior designers, they don't define who am I. I am who I am, not because of that address or that position. because of the individuality and the value add I bring to people I interact with. If you don't have value add to people when you interact with, your corporate career is over. You can bullshit for some time, not for long. What's the idea of working from home? It is to redesign your mental process. It is your ability to adapt and adopt. As human beings, we are all creatures of habit. We actually become addicts of our own habits. How do we change ourselves? So I think working from home is a brilliant way. It forces you to rethink of yourself. Think of yourself. What is it that you want to add? Who are you? I mean, your title, designations apart, what are you doing in that office? So I think if you're in the services or the knowledge industry, working from home is going to be probably the new normal as I see it. The process industries, including banking, at some point in time will figure out that the data privacy that they need to offer can be done much easier for people even working from home. Today, you have seen corporates, including like Wipro, where having taken permission of over 90% of their delivery staff and professionals can actually work from home and deliver, including respecting the data privacy and the security aspects that the clients demand. So there is a way, and I think we are going to bring to that. So that's ET, CT, and PT in a nutshell. So don't pity yourself, work, enjoy what you're doing. And also, I think I want to talk about some of the mistakes that we all make or learn from. And I call it the mistakes, the mileage, the meetings, and the messages. The meetings and the messages almost sound common for all the corporate guys because we always seem to be so busy on conf calls and meetings and taking messages. We tell our assistants, take a message, I'll call back. I think if this is a great time, a lockdown is a great time for each of us to reflect on our personal life, on our career. Where are we? What do we want to be? If you just imagine career as a marathon. It's also a great time to look at what have we messed up. A lot of us would have messed up something. We would have probably given up too much time to work or having sacrificed time for family. This is a time to heal. You can actually fix it. Some of us would have been so brusque and abrupt with our colleagues at work that we can actually reach out to them and speak to them and mend our ways. So I think it's a great time for each of us to learn from our mistakes and not just beat ourselves. Just don't beat yourself. I define it as in 3 sentences. It takes a person to make a mistake. So mistakes are good because they take you faster to a learning. It takes a person to make a mistake. It takes character to accept that mistake. But it takes attitude to rectify that mistake. Personality, character, and attitude. With the same mistake, you can actually develop these. So let's talk about mileage. What do I mean by mileage? With working from home or being on a sabbatical or learning from home, we are actually reducing the travel, the commute. And if you're in an urban setting, you actually probably save 2 to 3 hours a day. That's a lot of time. A lot of time to pick up a hobby, to use it productively. Some of you might say, I'm going to learn a hobby, cooking, gymming, reading, writing, music, figuring out something different, or taking a new coursework online. Do whatever that helps you, what I call as the happiness quotient. Happiness quotient, I define it very, very simple. It gives you a feeling that every day that you want to get up 5 minutes earlier and earlier because you're looking forward to doing that thing again and again. And I think it's also at the same time, from the happiness quotient, I go one extreme. There are times that your mood swings can actually make you feel so morose. You might feel you're missing the excitement, you're not meeting people, or sometimes you'll be so insecure that has the world forgotten you because you've not had a single call coming in for 3 hours or 4 hours. Very, very useful. Why don't you use this time to connect with people? Most of you are the college students. Why don't you make your CV? Why don't you make a good LinkedIn page for yourself? Why don't you actually read? Why don't you actually connect with professionals like me across? But again, please don't post pictures with your guitar, with your pup, with your hair as if you're a rock star. If you're on a LinkedIn medium, that's a professional medium. So have a little sense of decorum. And I think you will really love actually connecting with people. But be very, very clear that what do you want to connect people and what do you seek from them? Don't connect just to say that you have 1,000 connects. It doesn't help. And I think also use this time to talk to people that you have not spoken for a very, very long time. It could be your friends, family, anybody, your professors, your school teachers. Connect with them. Say hello. People feel nice about it. But again, I've also realized with virtual conferences that we all seem to be having, lot of us actually get onto a call without actually preparing for that meeting. It's, I think, a crime. Do the pre-read. Your calls will be far more efficient. Your office meetings, chatter without the chatter. That's something that you might miss, the gupshup and the tea chatter or the tea room chatter. That's fine. You can set up a call for a virtual chai meetings. I've been part of virtual chai meetings and the virtual bar meetings of late, where the friends are actually coming together and saying, all we're doing is connecting over a cup of tea and we're going to chat for 30 minutes, no work chat. A lot of offices are doing that. And of course, one of the biggest thing, I'm very thankful to all my reverse mentors, the youngsters that I worked with the last few years. These are bright young people who have been, let's say, between the age of 17 and 18 that I've learned from almost every year. Thanks to them, I actually gave up my laptop and PC 6 or 7 years ago. I moved on to the concept of mobile first, thanks to them. That means all my work, including the research for this very particular interaction or the speech, all the conversations with Atul, all the conversations about the notes on this have all been actually done on my mobile phone. I think it's all in the mind. A lot of us become slaves of what I call the social hierarchy, saying if you're the boss, you're going to have a 29-inch Macintosh screen, and the boss is not even going to switch it on. It is actually the analyst, the first 5 years of the career, the analyst who needs a faster processing machine because he or she is working on data. So if you look at the data pyramid, the information pyramid, the inverted pyramid, you actually put data on top, filter it to information, and then to knowledge, and then to wisdom. You got to figure out which zone are you operating in. I quickly realized I was not operating in the data and information era. I have already moved, thanks to the leadership role, I was working on the knowledge and the wisdom space. So I didn't need a computer. I didn't need a large screen. So I moved to a mobile and then to an iPad. And with enough streaming facility, you can stream data to whichever screen that you want. Simple concept. So I'm very thankful to all my reverse mentors for teaching me this. I think very, very simple. Why did I do what I did? Very simply put, most of you at Shoolini are going to be entering workforce in the next 3 to 5 years. That's reality. And if I ever have to lead a team of spirited youngsters like you, and if I stuck to my olden ways, the 1980s ways or the 90s way, I mean, I know the amount of chatter and the 4-letter words and the 3-letter jargons you're going to use about me on your social media network. I'll fail as a leader. The fact is that if I were to lead the next generation, I need to adopt to how do you think? How are you wired? And I think that's what my reverse mentors helped me very well. So thank you to them. And of course, I want to bring some humor, which is very, very missing in the Indian corporate world. And it also has a kind of take on how we communicate in the Indian world. And this is the chasm between my generation, which is the confused generation, because in the mid 40s to late 40s. And we are talking to the younger one, which is the millennials, and next ones, which are far young. What does it mean? We were the first one in the world as a market to bring the concept of missed call as a feature. I mean, enough consumer marketing agencies set up BPOs and KPOs to actually call back customers who gave a missed call. Because, very simple, the customers would save money. And what did we do? How do we behave? We will simply, in the corporate world, I will mail something to somebody. And let's say I'm mailing to all of you. And I would WhatsApp the person saying that, hey, I've mailed you. Can you check? And I would wait for exactly 11 seconds, probably far lesser than what it took me to type that WhatsApp. And I will forward the same message on SMS or text message that person saying, hey, I've mailed you. I also dropped your WhatsApp. Can you check? And I'll wait for 5 minutes and try calling the person. And let's say the call in India, people, we don't use the concept of voicemail at all. We assume that everybody is waiting around just to take my call or your call. And we have a very nasty habit. We called once and the person was busy and didn't pick up the call. We wouldn't do that. We would leave at least 7 or 8 missed calls on that person's phone. And let's say the person is free after some time and sees probably all the missed call and must be thinking some national disaster crisis has happened and this person is calling me to save the nation and will call you back. And you know what the person would feel like saying? He'll be like, what the? It's very, very simple. It's so common. And if you thought it's only your mom or dad who behave like that, all of us behave like that in corporate world. It's time we grow up. So I think some of these are learnings when you work from home. This kind of behavior you tried when you work from home, you're going to get whacked. So don't even try it. I think the discipline of being to the point, ability to focus, ability to communicate in lesser number of words to what you want to say is extremely important in today's world. Of course, work from home doesn't mean you don't meet other human beings at all. You do. While we are in the lockdown, the best way is, why don't you use virtual meetings, set up for chatter, set up for books club. I don't know whether Shoolini has got a books club that you can actually take it virtual, book appreciation or poetry class. I mean, almost every single extracurricular activity or the co-curricular that you have done, you can actually take it online. Why don't you create actually a virtual theater? I mean, through a play for entire university students to watch someday. It's about your dream, desire, and creativity. Let the imagination run wild. But having said that, I think this is a great time. I want to leave with all of you to say that why don't you use this lockdown? I think I'm a big proponent of work from home and learn from home. And when I say learn, I don't use the word study. Learn can be anywhere, anytime. And it's very, very simple. I get a lot of grief from my wife because when I buy chana on the road in Mumbai, you walk around the beach, you walk around anywhere, you pick up mungfali or whatever on the piece of paper it is wrapped in. I even have a habit of reading that. It's almost like saying that I'm hungry for knowledge and wherever it comes from. It could be the kirana wala giving me a gyan about supply chain. You don't need to be only in your supply chain logistics management class in MBA to learn that. You can learn from your kirana wala guy also. And having said that, I think in each of our lives, whether you are in Shoolini, wonderful place, you're in a smaller town or a village or a crowded city, I think work from home is a concept. It needs a lot of trust amongst stakeholders. Of course, in your kind of university setup, you would need attendance. So I'm sure there's a way of fixing the biometrics to ensure that you're around. In short, working or learning from home is not a lazy excuse anymore. I think it's a far, far disciplined approach to life. So I think stop making pretense and excuse. Enjoy your career, enjoy your learning. Learning never stops. Thank you so much for listening in. And I wish all of you the very, very best. And look forward to taking your questions. Thank you, Atul.
I think I am on mute. What an exciting discussion, Srinath. I mean, lots and lots of learning. But as I see your background, I was curious. Are you missing being at work? You know, you've got a background of a conference room. I think this was a conference room back at work. But are you missing that? That's why you have the background? Or it's just being the cheeky you?
It's just the cheeky me. For example, this background is probably what Zoom has given as San Francisco or a Bay Area one. And I don't think the Indian conference rooms, unfortunately, 99% of the Indian conference rooms that you have seen do not allow sunlight to come in at all. It's almost like as if we are so confidential that even we want to shut down the sunlight, right? So I think some of these concepts of working from home make you realize that while we talk about vitamin D and E, we actually shut down sunlight at office. So I think some of these ways are to think what we can do better. Am I missing the office space? No, I mean, you know me quite for some time, having traveled 20 to 24 days a month. I think wherever you work, whether you're sitting in the car or a plane or the airport or the office space, you actually work. Work is here. That's it. Work is in the mind. And it all depends on what you do. Unless you're in the process zone where you're sitting in a desk where you're taking calls or replying to emails, it's absolutely fine. For somebody who's not in the process industry at all, or the need for even sitting on an email, I check my mails once a day in the morning. And I think most of us in India should learn not to be addicts of the computer or the screen or the email. We feel that somebody is going to mail and if I'm going to miss replying to it, and I think we can live without checking emails so paranoidly.
I love this concept. I have, you know, before we get to questions to the audience, from the audience, I have to challenge one thought. I wouldn't say challenge, but throw a thought at you and some of our faculties here from Shoolini. Let's hypothetically say that we move to, once COVID finishes, we move to 4 days a week on campus and 1 day a week from home, work from home. I would like to hear my faculty tell me yes or no on chat. Secondly, I would like to hear your views on it. What if they work from home post-COVID?
Sure, I think it's a great idea. I think having seen the last 10 days of the interaction and what we have spoken about, amount of, let's say, the classes, virtual classrooms, as long as the bandwidth that supports not just the entire stakeholders to do it, the internet bandwidth, I think you can sit from anywhere and do whatever, right? I mean, just imagine this beautiful backdrop that's on my virtual backdrop, and that's not how my home looks, but I can make it look like that. It's almost like every single boardroom in India 10 years ago used to have brilliant leather-bound encyclopedias kept in their entire boardroom. And it's all makeshift, it's all here. So if you can work from sitting in your shorts and t-shirt, sitting at home or in a balcony and learning something, why not?
So, pretty much lots of people have said yes. Amar says yes till I do not get a compensation decrease. So,
so that's something that I want to take. In fact, Atul, that's a very, very valid point. That's one of the bigger challenges that I see how corporate India is going to adopt. The moment they feel that you can actually work from home and do it, they should not feel, hey, are you overpaying your staff? If they can do it at home, was I overpaying them? That kind of pricing the knowledge space, I think will evolve sometime.
I think that's right. I mean, we all know work from home can actually be more effective. Silicon Valley, had moved to this 3 days from work and 2 days from home many years back. Firms like PwC, by the way, don't have desks anymore or permanent desks anymore for the staff. You can dock in and move in into any particular desk. These are revolutionary concepts. We've tried some of this at Shoolini. We've actually our faculty space in our Faculty of Management Sciences looks like a Google office space. Possibly we can. Again, I'd like to get some comments from the faculty. Would you like not to have permanent desks, but desks where you can just plug in whenever you come in, because that's the whole nature of work from home. But we'll come to that thought later. Let's pick up some questions over here. We have Dr. Rosie ask a question that how do you stay away from Facebook? How do you stay away from non-work mail, casual chit chat when you're in a work situation, in a work from home situation? How do you do that?
So I mean, so let me draw the analogy of the most abused phrase after the word strategy in B school is work-life balance. I mean, you have enough countless examples of work-life balance, and I always used to maintain this pre-COVID, and I think with post-COVID it becomes far more relevant. I think we have to understand that we work in an emerging nation or a developing market, which means that you are not going to have a 9-to-5 workforce, and you're not going to have the ability to shut your phone or email on a weekend, on a Friday evening, and say, I'm going to switch it on Monday. That's a pipe dream for most of us, and rightfully so. I think one generation that all of us have to work so that our GDP improves for the next level for us to afford that. So in that sphere, I think work and life balance means I must be very thankful that I have work in my life. And if I can create a great life at work, whether I work from home or in the campus or in my office, I think that's superb. I think that's a balance that I always call work from home.
I'm reading some comments. Some people are saying 3 days from home. That should be it. Another friend, Rupak, I think is saying, don't make it a day, make it like a month every year, make it one go. So interesting thoughts. I think the world is going to start challenging these. I promise everyone that at Shoolini, we're going to keep experimenting, keep on giving feedback. We want to be on the cutting edge. We want you guys to be more productive. We want you guys to learn, students, faculty, staff, everyone. So we'll do everything to become, to think outside the box. Or as I say sometimes, let's break the box on that. A few questions, Srinath. Pradeep is asking, he's saying, it's actually not work from home. It's actually forced work from home. So he's calling it FWFH. And he's saying that, do you see a trend going forward if there's going to be more work from home? There are going to be more freelancers. rather than permanent staff in firms? Do you see a rise of freelancers like in the US?
So I think I probably would not blame it on the current shutdown or lockdown. I think it's how the knowledge space has been and gig economy has been. I think if you look at the millennials and compare, let's say, Atul, your or my career, we all grew up with where the concept of working in an organization for many, many years. Our parents worked in probably the same organization for 30, 40 years before they retired. But if you look at today's millennial or the younger, the 21st centurions, as I call them, most of them, if you look at their CVs, don't even stick around for 2 years. So it's what is it that's driving them to change a job or a role? I'm questioning very cheekily. I'm sure when you get HR leaders on the subsequent lectures, you must ask them this controversial question. Is there a concept of organizational brand loyalty anymore? Or is it about me as an individual having the ability to constantly learn and also earn? So in the gig economy, I think the reality is most of us will also want to go off the grid. I won't be surprised if people after working for 3-4 years saying that I want to take 6 months off, 3 months off. It's very awkward for the non-millennials like us to even use the word sabbatical, but they're not shy of saying that it didn't work out. I tried the startup, I worked. I want to take a chill pill. I want to take a break here. So I think it's here to stay, but I think it'll also marry the economic, I think, necessities. If you're broke, if you don't have money, you're going to go back and say, hey, I need to work now. So it's how do you balance it? And that's what I initially started off with. If you're going to live till 85 and you're 20 today, and you're going to start working, let's say, from the age of 20, 25, you're going to earn and you have to make your money work last you for 60 years. For all you know, you might actually be forced to retire at 50 or 55. And when you retire at 55, and let's say you retire with a couple of crores, in a low interest regime that India is currently and going to be, will that money work for you for the subsequent 30 years? Think about it. So I don't know whether Shoolini has the concept of personal finance management that you teach. I think it's a great subject that the other B schools have actually avoided teaching. And I think it's necessary for every individual to know the concept of personal finance.
So I'm going to make an offer now to you, Srinath. How about becoming a visiting faculty at Shoolini and teaching this subject?
We have signed on.
So we take it as a yes, right?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. So Dr. Roger, you might want to note this. I think he's on the call. He's the director of the MBA program. So new course starting in a few days. So we'll reach out to you on that, Srinath. A couple of questions more. I think we've got 5 more minutes. We've got Manav asking a question saying, how do I get that self-discipline? Tell me 3 ways to build self-discipline.
So I think it's first figuring out what you don't want to do. There are tons of things you might want to do, but I think the easier way to remove the clutter from your mind is what is it that you don't want to do? And two, to say that what is it that you would never compromise or sacrifice on? I mean, for some, I know some of my friends definitely need sleep. They definitely need the 12 hours of sleep or 8 hours of sleep. And I think the concept of once you have said what you don't want to do and what you can never give up, and then you would say that this is the choice I have in front of me. Every choice will have a price to pay. Every choice will have a decision, sometimes a hard one to take. Take it. If you think that's something that you want to do for a long time, just take it. I don't know whether this kind of addressed your question of 3 small, simple steps to do, but this is what I would do.
I think I'll take the last question. Amar is asking, what about body language? We've taught and we've been told all the time about body language. That's how you perceive people. How do you perceive body language? What happens to body language in this new world?
So I think little old school thought, I believe in it. Body language is very, very critical. And which is why I also think that to establish a rapport or a chemistry, it's very difficult to do it over a virtual call or a video conference. You need to know the person. And which is why when I used to recruit senior management or leaders, business leaders, I had a simple thumb rule, at least 3 meetings and invariably 1 long lunch. I mean, for the first meeting, you might be in your best behavior, 40 minutes, 30 minutes, you can always spend. But if you are forced to spend 2 hours over a long lunch conversation, if you don't like that person, it shows in your face. It shows in your body language. So small little things, I think body language is extremely critical. And I think over a point in time, even the way that our video conferences would happen, I'm sure there'll be some kind of 3D imaging that you could actually feel almost like a holographic image. We might get there. Give it under 1 year, probably Zoom or somebody might actually come with that.
So I think before we close, Srinath, your 1 minute summary to our students very specifically, how should they take this time? It's very different from them. I'm sure it's very stressful for them. What are your last thoughts to our students? 1 minute to you.
Sure. I mean, if you're not paranoid about your career, if you're not paranoid about your aspiration, if you're not paranoid, and if you don't have sleepless nights, you're on the wrong path. You must be paranoid. You must be having sleepless nights of what you want to do. You must have that hunger. I think the reality is very, very simple. You're going to walk out of that university in this year or later in a couple of years. The fact is you're not competing with those 300, 400 people from your batch. You're competing with probably 400,000 people who graduate from the same subject this year across India. So don't bullshit yourself. You have to be paranoid that you want to succeed. So as many skill sets, as many languages, as many as attitude, the positive attitude you can pick it. As many of networking that you can do it. As many as knowledge you can seek, pick it up. That's a 1 minute chat.
I think that these are great thoughts. I think you're saying push yourself outside the comfort zone. We had Saurabh Gupta talk exactly the same stuff. So I think all of us, whether it's faculty, whether it's other people who are joining this call or it's students, we just need to keep pushing ourselves. I think the good news is the web offers great opportunity. It's a relatively risk-free environment. So my two thoughts, I think three things are going to happen. First of all, it's not going to be only work from home. I think it's going to be hybrid, which means a few days home, a few days in the office, which means the best of both worlds. And I think that's a win-win. The second thing is, I think some of us will learn to become great actors. Many of us wanted to be in front of the camera. Suddenly we get an opportunity to become actors and stars. And if you're good, I think we can get a great following, which is part of life, I think, in the new social media context. And I think the last thing is we'll get opportunities to learn things which we otherwise never could. A small example is I always had a dream to go to Harvard, but never could. I suddenly get an opportunity to listen to Harvard professors live. And I think it's a very fascinating journey for me. Anyway, I think with these thoughts, thank you very much, Srinath. What an exciting talk. We had more than 500 participants on this talk today. Clearly, I think everyone was very engaged. I can see lots of thumbs up. I can see lots of messages on my WhatsApp, on the chat. So very, very engaging. We are thankful to you to accept our offer to be a visiting faculty with us. We'll take that offer and I'll reach out to you. So once again, a big thank you, and thank you, participants. You've been a wonderful audience, and we'll see you tomorrow, 11:30, same time, at the Yogananda Guru series powered by Shoolini University. Thank you, Srinath, and thank you, participants. And once again, wish you all a great day and be safe. Thank you.
Thank you. All the best.